Hey, I'm Rob for JestaThaRogue.com. I'm going to show you how to play Terra Nova. This is a game for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 90 minutes, is designed by Andreas Foll and is published by Capstone Games. You play a fantasy race, use their special abilities to make the landscape habitable for that race and build buildings to form towns and spread across the land and over rivers to score points. Score the most points to win. But before we dig the land, if you dig this video, be sure to hit subscribe for more how to play videos like this. On to setup. Lay out the game board. Next to 0 points on the score track, you will see there's a side for 2 players only, or for 2 to 4 players, so pick the correct one for your player count. Put out the turn order board next to the game board. Place 5 random scoring tiles on their spaces on the game board. Page 1 of the rulebook shows the suggested setup for your first game. Lay out the bonus tiles. You need 3 plus the number of players, so 6 in a 3-player game. Page 2 of the rulebook shows the suggested setup for your first game. Put an X token next to each power action on the game board. Also put one next to the bonus tile with the orange octagon if it's in play. Choose a random start player. In clockwise order, players choose a faction board and the pieces of that colour. The suggested races for your first game for each player count can be found on page 2 of the rulebook. Players put their faction token on the turn order board in clockwise turn order with the first player at the top. Put a faction token in 0 points. The faction mats have 2 sides with 2 different factions, A and B, shown in the middle of the board at the top. And it's recommended that you play with the A side of the faction boards for your first game, so I'm going to be covering those factions and some of their abilities in this video only. Players take the amount of money shown under their faction name. For the fairies, this is 7. Put the 8 power tokens in the 3 power bowls as shown, 2 in bowl 1 at the bottom, 2 in bowl 2 on the left and 4 in bowl 3 at the top. Put a faction token on 0 of the sailing track. Houses go on the bottom row of the faction board, 8 of them go on the 8 scroll spaces. Trading posts go on the 4 scroll spaces in the middle row. Finally, the 2 palaces go on the left and right spaces above the trading posts. The faction's 3 bridges, 4 town tiles and player aid are put next to the board. And now the game board and the faction boards are ready, we're going to finish setup by placing the initial buildings and choosing a bonus tile. In turn order, players place their leftmost house from their faction board onto their home terrain. The home terrain is the terrain matching the player's colour. It's also the top colour showing on the player's faction board on the terrain circle. In reverse turn order, players do this again with the next leftmost house from their faction board onto their home terrain. The Sun Worshipper's special ability allows them to place a 3rd house during setup. This extra house is always placed last after every player has placed 2 houses. There is a suggested setup for starting locations on page 2 of the rulebook. In reverse turn order, players pick a bonus tile from those available and place it next to their faction board. There is a suggested starting pick for each faction on page 2 of the rulebook. Put 1 money on each bonus tile that was not taken. Onto gameplay, which is over 5 rounds, each with 3 phases: income, actions and round end. In phase 1, income, players can simultaneously gain anything visible with a hand underneath on the faction board and bonus tile. For money, gain the amount shown. For example, the water sprites gain a total of 8 money from the spaces uncovered on their faction board. They also gain 6 as shown on their bonus tile for a total of 14. Gaining power is shown with a power token and a white arrow, and the player will gain the amount of power shown. For example, the fairy's ability lets them gain 2 power each income phase, and their current bonus tile lets them gain a further 3 for a total of 5. To gain power, for each 1 power gained, move that many tokens from bowl 1 to bowl 2. Only if bowl 1 is empty, you can then move them from bowl 2 to bowl 3 until you have gained all the power or all your tokens are in bowl 3. For example, as the fairies will gain 5 power, they will first gain from the first bowl, so 1, then 2. Now as that bowl is empty, they will gain from the second bowl, so 3, 4 and 5. If both money and power are above the hand, then gain both. Phase 2 is to take actions. In turn order, players take turns taking 1 of the 7 available actions. These are all summarised on the back of the player aid. The first action is make habitable and build. Now players can always build on their home terrain, but they may need to make other terrains habitable so they can build on them. Now the terrain hex they build on must be directly adjacent to or in reach of a structure they already have on the game board. I'll explain adjacency and reach in full shortly, but for now we're just going to build on the hex next to a structure we already have on the board. The player pays money to change the terrain hex to their home terrain, places a home terrain tile on that space, and also pays money to build a house on that space. Players must pay 6 money per shovel on the terrain circle to change terrain. For example, for the leprechauns to change a yellow or blue terrain to their home terrain, this passes 1 shovel, so costs 6 money as shown on the faction board. To change a red or green terrain to their home terrain takes 2 shovels, so will cost 12 money. Then pay 4 money as shown under the house image to build a leftmost house from the faction board onto the newly converted terrain tile. Remember the round scoring tile for the current round. Always take into account its effect during the relevant round. For example, 2 round scoring tiles give an immediate 2 points to the player every time they build a house this round, and 1 gives 2 points for each shovel a player gains this round, no matter how they gained it. Also, the Leprechaun's ability means they gain 2 power for each shovel they gain. Action 2 is to upgrade a building. Pay the cost of the new building and place it on the game board, replacing a previously placed building. Buildings are upgraded to the next building with a higher town value as shown by these symbols. So houses upgraded to trading posts and trading posts upgraded to palaces. Trading posts have 2 costs, 7 and 10. They cost 7 if built adjacent to another player's building and 10 if not. Pay the cost, take the leftmost trading post and return the replaced house to the rightmost empty scroll space. When upgrading a trading post to a palace, return the trading post to the rightmost empty scroll space and place either the left or right palace in its space on the game board. 3 round bonus tiles give points for upgrading a building. 2 give 3 points each time you upgrade to a trading post this round, and 1 gives 5 points each time a player builds a palace this round. Building the left palace unlocks another faction ability, and building a right palace with the A side factions will make founding a town easier, which I'll explain shortly. Whenever a player builds or upgrades adjacent to another player, they gain 1 power per adjacent building. For example, this yellow faction just upgraded to a trading post. The blue faction will gain 1 power and the red faction will gain 2 power. Action 3 is to pay 8 money and upgrade the faction's sailing and gain the points shown. Pay the cost, move the counter and gain the points shown on the space you move to. Sailing allows you to increase your faction's reach. For each 1 you have in sailing, you can skip 1 space down a river. For example, from this space with 1 sailing, the yellow faction can skip 1 water space to use the make habitable and build action on the other side of the river. And the higher the sailing, the more spaces you can skip down the river. 1 scoring round tile gives points each time you increase your shipping. 1 bonus tile gives you temporary shipping you can use while you have control of this tile. Action 4 is to pay 10 money to build a bridge. Bridges are built over water between 2 bridgeheads adjacent to a building you have on the board. Buildings are considered adjacent if they share a hex border or are connected by a bridge. For example, these 3 buildings are all connected via being either directly adjacent or connected by a bridge. Action 5 is to spend power to take a power action. First, let's learn how to spend power. Spending power is shown with a black arrow, and power must be spent from bowl 3 back into bowl 1. For example, if you need to spend 4 power, you need to be able to move 4 power from bowl 3 back to bowl 1. After spending the power, take the action and cover it up with the X token to show it's been used this round. Let's look at the actions. The first 2 cost 3 and 4 power and let you build a bridge. The third costs 4 and lets you increase your sailing by 1. Remember to gain the points shown on the faction board as normal. The fourth costs 4 power and lets you gain 7 money. The fifth costs 4 power to use the make habitable and build action with 1 free shovel. Players may pay 6 to buy a second shovel if required and then may pay to build a house. The sixth action costs 6 power and is the same but with 2 free shovels. For this action you can convert 1 or 2 adjacent locations into your home terrain, you cannot buy any further shovels, and then you can build 1 house. Even if you convert 2 terrains to your home terrain, you can still only build 1 house. Remember that even though these are free shovels, they still count as gaining a shovel for round scoring tiles, so you will gain the points. Action 6 is to take a special action. 1 bonus tile and the left palace ability of the water sprites, fairies and sun worshippers have bonus abilities. Simply take the action and cover the action with an X tile to show it's been used this round. Eventually, as players build and expand, they'll be able to found a town. This happens automatically and does not count as an action. A town is founded when there are 4 adjacent buildings with a combined value of 7 or more. For example, these 4 buildings have a value of 7, 3 for the palace, 2 for the trading post and 1 each for the houses. Remember, the building value is shown on the faction board. The player places any one of their town tiles under a building in that town and gains the bonuses shown on it. For example, this town tile grants 6 money and 5 points. And each building can only be part of 1 town. If buildings that are not part of a town become adjacent to an already existing town, they become part of that town and then cannot become their own town later on. 1 round tile gives 5 points for forming a town in this round, and the water sprites gain a bonus 4 points for doing so every time. The faction's right palace ability means a faction only needs a combined building value of 6 to found a town, but still needs to contain 4 buildings. Sometimes you'll find yourself a little short on money, but you can use a power exchange. Spend power as normal from bowl 3 into bowl 1 to gain 1 money for each power spent. There is a reminder of this on the faction board next to bowl 1. And this can be done at any time during your turn on phase 2, any time in phase 3, which is the end of round step, and at the end of the game. The 7th and final action is to drop out the round. Move the faction's player order token to the topmost empty space on the other side of the turn order track. Then look for when dropping out conditions, shown with a closed scroll on the player's faction board and bonus tiles. 4 end of round tiles give points. 3 give 1, 2 and 3 points for each house, trading post and palace the player has on the game board. The 4th gives 3 points for each step the player is on their sailing track. The Golem's faction ability awards them points for a number of trading posts they have on the game board. The player returns the bonus tile, takes a different one, not the one they just returned, and places it face down in front of them. They also take any money on the bonus tile that they took. Once all the players have dropped out, we move on to phase 3, the end of the round. Remove all X tokens from all action spaces to show they are available again in the next round. Add 1 coin to each end of round tile that wasn't taken, even if it already has some. Flip the round scoring tile face down to show which round you're on. Now start the next round in a new turn order shown on the turn order board. After the 5th round, the game ends. Skip the final end of round phase. Players gain 1 point per 3 money. Remember, they can spend 1 power to gain 1 money at this point if needed. Then players score 12, 8 and 4 points for the first, second and third largest collection of buildings within reach of each other on the board. For ties, add the number of points together for all the tied positions and divide by the number of players involved in the tie so everybody gets the same amount of points. A reminder for endgame scoring can be found at the bottom of the board. And the player with the most points is the winner, and that's how you play Terra Nova. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when a new video goes live. You can follow me on Twitter, Insta, Twitch and YouTube at Jesta ThaRogue and find the blog at JestaThaRogue.com. I've been Rob aka JestaThaRogue and I'll see you soon.